Erev Tov. Let's continue talking about Parshat Zachor and the laws of Purim and all these things that we need to know. We were talking yesterday about how to do Parshat Zachor. One of the most important things, that we have to know is that Baruch Hashem, we're blessed, How are we blessed? That our pronunciation, our miftah, our right accent, the way we pronounce the Hebrew, the Sfaradim, is the better way. It's the preferred way. It's the more accurate way. So because of that, right, a person should try to hear, Parshat Zachor in a Sephardi shul, where they read in the Sephardi accent. Not to go to the Ashkenazim. That's not the best way to do it. Why? Because our accent is better than theirs. Our miftah is better than theirs. Superior. Right? How do we know that, by the way? Where does it say? So the truth is, there's like 3 different sources regarding this that we have to talk about a little bit to mention. One is that there is a book called the Ridvaz, Beta Ridvaz. Right? This was an Ashkenazi rabbi who lived in Eretz Israel about 100 years ago. So he was a posek, from Europe, and he had a friend also there. His name was Rabbi Yosef Yedid. So if you know the family Yedid, they're Syrians. They're Levi, Levites. All right? So they were friends, these 2 rabbis, one Sephardi, one Ashkenazi. So one time what happened was that this rabbi, came, Rabbi Yosef Yedid. He came to the Ridvaz. His name was Rabbi Yehuda ben Ze'ev. So he came to him and says, Ilamdenu Rabbenu, right? Let the rabbi teach us, Which accent is better, the Sephardi or Ashkenazi accent, the way of pronunciation? Which one is better? Why was he asking him? Because he's Ashkenazi, If he says it himself, it's like he's like Nogea, it's like, okay, you understand. But he is Ashkenazi, so he's asking him, what's better? So he wrote this in his book, Beta Ridvaz, one of the tshuvot that he wrote over there, this rabbi, the tshuva. So he writes over there that the Sephardi accent is better than the Ashkenazi. Superior. Even though he was Ashkenazi. Right? So the question is why? So he answered like this. The reason is because when the Jews went to Galut after Beit Sheni, everybody scattered into different places. So what happened was, that the ones that went far away from Eretz Israel, like the Ashkenazim, they went to Europe, right? Whether it's Poland or Russia, right, or France, right, places like this, Ashkenazi, these are Ashkenazi countries. Germany, right? So over there, they're far away from Eretz Israel. And because of that, the way they pronounce words, their accent is not similar to what you have in Lashon HaKodesh, in Hebrew. It's very far away from that. Because, it's a different culture, it's far away from Eretz Israel. It's not Middle Eastern culture also, Not Middle Eastern. So it doesn't resemble, So therefore what happened was, because of this Ashkenazim, they went to Europe, all kinds of faraway countries, and because of that, they lost the Masoret, about how to pronounce the Hebrew properly. They lost it. Because over there, who are they going to learn from? Those people over there, right? Those goyim over there. Their pronunciation is no good. It's a different kind of a language altogether. This is the reason why he says the Ridvaz, that the pronunciation of the Sfaradim is better than the Ashkenazim. So what does that mean? The Sfaradim, where did they go to Galut? Closer to Eretz Israel, right? They were closer, not so far away. So what does that mean? They went to Bavel, right? Iraq. They went to Syria, which is in the north, right? But very close to Eretz Israel. Or in the south, right? Mitzrayim, right? All these places, all around Eretz Israel, these places. So those places, the accent over there is very close, to Eretz Israel, The truth is, that the Ibn Ezra says, right? If you really want to know the proper way to pronounce Lashon HaKodesh, where should you go? Who should you hear? If you want to hear somebody, right, who says everything accurate. You know what it says? The best people to learn from is the Ishmaelim. The Ishmaelim are the best. Why? Because they're very traditional people, and their language is very close to Lashon HaKodesh. It's not very far from Hebrew. So because of that, they kept their Masoret, the way they pronounce everything, like it was always from the beginning. And this is the reason why the Ishmaelim, their pronunciation is the best. So if you want to know how to pronounce Hebrew, listen to them, the way they pronounce. So I'll explain to you, right, how this comes in. For instance, right, you know that in our language, right, Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew, there's a kaf and then there's a kuf, right? Kuf, kuf. They're similar sound, but it's not exactly the same. What's the difference between kaf and kuf? Kaf is like in English, the K sound, right? K, like that, that's kaf. But kof, right, is a little bit deeper in the side, in the mouth, kof, kof, it's inside the mouth more. So kaf and kof is not the same. If you look at the Arabim, right, Ishmaelim, that's exactly what they do, they have a different one. Kaf, they have kof. And they differentiate between one and the other. Another example, right? Kaf and chaf and chet, right? It's almost the same thing, right? Chaf, chet. But the truth is, that the chaf and the chet is not the same thing. What's the difference? Right? The chaf is like, like a ch sound, like ch, chai, like this, what the people say. But the het, right, is in the throat. Het. If you go to Eretz Israel, by the way, over there, all the people, the Sephardi people, they make a differentiation between the chaf and the het. Het is in the throat. Het. Chaf is in the mouth. Not the same thing. Arabim Yimach Shemam, they also do the same thing. Just like they also do. They have a Masoret. They have, the Masoret is very clear by them. This is the thing, That's why Ibn Ezra says, you want to hear the proper Lashon HaKodesh, the way to pronounce, go to the Arabim, go to Ishmaelim. They're going to tell you, right? If they don't kill you, watch out for the knife. They have knives also, watch out for them. They're dangerous, but what can you do, right? It is what it is. But anyway, right, that's the thing. So, this is the reason why, right, the ones who were close to Eretz Israel, the ones who went to Galut, right, the Sfaradim, their pronunciation of the Lashon HaKodesh is very, very good. You know why? Because they were with Ishmaelim over there. Where were they living? With Ishmaelim. Ishmaelim, they know how to pronounce everything. Also, there's another thing, which is that, where was the Talmud written? Which country? Talmud Bavli, right? It was Iraq. It was written in Iraq, Yeah, that's it, right? Bavel. So, what does that tell you? All the big Chachamim were there, in Iraq. That's where they were. So if you really want to know, right, which is the best way to pronounce the Hebrew, go to the Iraqi Jews. They know how to. The Iraqi Jews have the best pronunciation, the best accent they have, Iraqi. I remember when Maran Rabbi Shalom, he used to, in the shul, I was praying there. There was this one guy, who was Iraqi guy, everything he said was Iraqi accent. In Israel, most people don't do like that, they don't pronounce like that. But he didn't have a good voice, he wasn't a good chazan, but he said everything Iraqi way, So Maran, when you would see him, always would put him to be the chazan. Why? Because of the Iraqi accent. He didn't have a good voice, nothing, no singing, no melody. But because of the accent, that's why he would put him. So that's the thing, So therefore, right, there's also two other chachamim, Ashkenazi chachamim. I'll tell you about them. Very interesting story, right? What's the story? There was one. His name was Rabbi Natan Adler, right? Who was in Hungary, right? So over there, he was the Rebbe of the Chatam Sofer. He was also a Hungarian rabbi, Chatam Sofer, big chacham, big posek. So Rabbi Natan Adler, he decided at one point in his life, he said, what? I'm going to switch, to Sephardi accent. I'm not going to say any more Ashkenazi accent anymore. For prayers, for tefillah. So he switched. He decided, we're going to change. That's it, right? Because he knew that was the good one, that was the right one. So what did he do? He went, right, he sent for, there was a rabbi that, he was in Turkey, in Turkey, right? So he sent for this rabbi. His name was Rabbi Chaim Modai, right? So what did he do? He took this rabbi, from Turkey, and he told him, I want you to come here, to Hungary, and teach us how to say proper Lashon HaKodesh. You teach us how to do everything. That's what he told them, right? So what happened? He came, this rabbi. Probably they paid him, he wouldn't come for free. I don't know. He's not crazy, right? They must have paid him something. Who's going to come for free, right? To a different country. You got to get paid for that. So what happened was he sat there. Can you imagine? This rabbi, 3 years he was there, teaching them how to say Sephardi pronunciation, everything. Because they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know. They knew it's the right thing, but they don't know. They're not a baki. They're not expert. So what happened? Right? That he taught them for 3 years, how to say. So there, right? Once he taught them, he went home. He went back to Turkey, right? To Erdogan, right? Erdogan, Imach Shemo. Right? So Israel. So what happened, right? He went back there. So once he learned, Rav Natan Adler, how to say Sephardi everything, what he did was, in his shul, in his synagogue, he would go up to be the chazan, and say everything Sephardi, the whole tefillah, everything. He didn't allow anybody else to go to be chazan. You know why? Because they said Ashkenazi. So he says, I'm gonna do the tefillah, everything. Why? Because I say Sephardi way. This is what happened, So you see, right? Again, same thing. There was also another chacham who did the same thing. You know what his name was? From Germany, right? Rabbi Pinchas Levi Horowitz, Hafla'ah. He was a big dayan. He had a bed din in Germany, in Hamburg, in Germany. Also, he did like that. He switched. He was Ashkenazi, but he switched everything to Sephardi. That's what he did. Because he knew that was the right thing. So you see from there, right, that even those Ashkenazi chachamim, they switched from Sephardi to Ashkenazi to Sephardi. All the more so us, right? We never did Ashkenazi, We never did like that. So even if a person, let's say, right, you sent your kid, right, to Ashkenazi yeshiva. They taught him over there to say everything Ashkenazi, But when he finishes the yeshiva, gets out of there, you have to tell him, listen, go back now, to Sephardi, because, you're not Ashkenazi, Yes, you learned over there by the Ashkenazim. That's nice, very good. They taught you a lot of good things there. But you're Sephardi, you're not allowed to say, Tefillah and Torah, Ashkenazi way. You're not allowed to do that. Asur. Because you're downgrading, you're not going up, you're going down. As we said, right? Because the Sephardi accent is the better one. You're going down. You're not going up. So, this is the reason, right? A person has to be careful about that. So, why do I tell you all this? What's the reason why? Because when you hear Parshat Zachor, right? If you can go to a Sephardi shul, with a good Baal Koreh, go over there. Because the Ashkenazi shul, it's not the same level, If you have nothing else, if you don't have any Ashkenazi, if you don't have any Sephardi, you can go to Ashkenazi. You have no choice, Okay, fine, You be Yotzei Dechovah. It's not like you say, I'm not Yotzei Dechovah. Why are you Yotzei Dechovah? Even though their accent is not the best, but you understand what they're saying, right? You understand what they're saying, even though they say it a little bit differently, right? But it's you understand what's going on, So you can be Yotzei Dechovah, but if you have a choice, to go to Sephardi or Ashkenazi, for sure you should go to Sephardi. Why? Because Sephardi is the best, right? It's the best pronunciation of the Lashon HaKodesh, the proper and good way. That's the way to do. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen Amen. רבי חנניה בן גרשי אומר, אצל הקדוש ברוך הוא לא זכות ישראל, לפיכך הכי בא להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפש, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.